There are 38 camera movements that filmmakers have been using for decades to make their shots look professional. And today, I'm going to walk you through every single one of them using Kling 3.0, so you can start applying them to your own videos right now. The tool we're going to use for all of this is called Higgsfield. Now, I've used a lot of video generation platforms, and the reason I keep coming back to this one is because the workflow is really simple, and when you want to experiment with different ideas, you're never stuck digging through menus. When you open Higgsfield, you'll head over to the video generation section, and from there you select Kling 3.0 as your model. Then you upload a starting image, and in the prompt you describe how you want the camera to move. For our starting image, I'm going to use a portrait-style shot of a female assassin in a red silk dress standing in a snowy Tokyo alleyway at night, and we'll run the same image through a bunch of different prompts so you can clearly see how much the camera direction changes the feel. Our first camera movement is the dolly in, the most basic and probably the most used camera move in all of filmmaking. The camera slides forward toward the subject and it pulls you into the scene. I'll type, the camera slowly dollies forward toward the woman. Soft afternoon lighting, shallow depth of field. And here's the result. Super clean, super simple, and immediately more cinematic than a still image. The second one is the dolly out, the exact opposite, where the camera pulls backward away from the subject, and you'd use it when you want to reveal more of the environment or create distance. So I'll type, the camera slowly dollies backward away from the woman, revealing the full city street behind her. And you can see how it gives us that slow reveal of the full street. Our third move is the fast dolly in, sometimes called a rush, the same forward movement but much faster, creating a sudden burst of intensity. For this one, I'll write, the camera rushes forward quickly toward the woman's face, creating urgency. And the difference is immediately obvious. This one hits way harder than the slow version, and it's great for dramatic moments. Fourth and fifth are pan left and pan right, where the camera stays in one spot but rotates sideways, almost like turning your head. So for these, I'll write, the camera pans slowly to the left, keeping the woman in frame as the background shifts. These work when you want to follow a subject or reveal something beside them. Number 6 is the tilt up, which starts low and moves the camera upward. So I'm typing, the camera tilts upward from the woman's feet to her face. And right away, this gives us a really clean character reveal. Number 7 is tilt down, which just reverses that motion. I'm typing, the camera tilts downward from above, slowly landing on the woman's feet. And it gives us exactly that. Moves 8 and 9 are truck left and truck right, and they look similar to pans, but the entire camera slides sideways instead of rotating. I'll type, the camera trucks laterally to the right, sliding past the woman while the background shifts with parallax. And here's the result. The parallax between the subject and background is what makes these feel more cinematic than a simple pan. And our 10th move is the pedestal up, where the camera rises straight up vertically. And I'll write, the camera rises slowly from waist level to eye level, revealing the woman's face. And it gives us this slow, dramatic character reveal that works perfectly for intros. That's 10 moves already, and every single one took less than a minute to generate. These are the absolute essentials of cinematography, and just knowing how to prompt these alone will make your videos feel way more professional. All 10 of those move the camera in a straight line though, either forward, backward, sideways, or up and down. Once you start curving the camera around your subject and lifting it vertically at the same time, the results start looking like they belong on a completely different level. By the way, if you want to follow along with any of this, I've left a link to Higgsfield in the description below. It's a lot easier to learn these when you're generating them in real time instead of just watching. Orbital moves circle the camera around the subject, and crane moves lift it vertically while keeping the subject framed. Both of them add a sense of depth and scale that straight line moves can't replicate, and they're the reason movie trailers always feel so much more expensive than the actual film. Move 11 is the Orbit 180, which moves the camera in a half circle around the subject, so you start from the front and end up seeing them from the side or the back. I'll switch to a different starting image for this section, this time a man in a leather jacket standing in an empty parking garage with moody overhead lighting. I'll type, the camera orbits 180 degrees around the man, shifting from a front-facing angle to a side profile. And look at that. The shadows shift as the angle changes, and it instantly adds dimension to a shot that would otherwise feel flat. 12 is the 360 spin, which takes that all the way around. So I'll write, the camera orbits a full 360 degrees around the man, circling him completely. And the result is bold and dramatic, and it works best when the subject stays centered, so the environment wraps around them. The 13th camera movement is the slow cinematic arc, a softer version where the camera moves in a wide, gentle curve instead of a tight circle. For this one, I'll write, the camera arcs slowly to the left in a wide curve, gradually revealing the man's profile. And this one just looks beautiful. If I had to pick one move from this entire video, it might be this one. Number 14 is crane up, which lifts the camera high into the air while tilting down. I'm typing, the camera cranes upward while tilting down to keep the man in frame, revealing the full scale of the parking garage. And you can see that epic expanding feeling where the world grows around the subject. Move 15 is crane down, which just reverses it. I'm writing, the camera descends from a high angle, slowly lowering toward the man's eye level, and it feels like arriving into the scene almost like the camera is landing. And our 16th move is crane over the head, which arcs up and over the subject in one sweep. So I'll type, the camera sweeps upward and over the man's head in a continuous arc, transitioning from a low angle to directly overhead, and you can see how the perspective completely flips by the end of the shot. If any of that sounds complicated, don't worry. The only thing that changed between these and the foundation moves is the camera direction in the prompt. The workflow is identical, you're just describing a curve instead of a straight line, and Kling 3.0 handles the rest. Orbital and crane moves are all about moving the camera body through space. The next set doesn't move the camera at all, it's entirely about what the lens is doing, and that creates a feel that's completely different from anything we've covered so far. The difference between a dolly and a zoom is that a dolly physically moves the entire camera forward, while a zoom keeps the camera still and changes the focal length. It sounds like a small difference, but it completely changes the feel because with a zoom, the background stays the same size while the subject grows. And that creates this very specific, flattened look that you've definitely seen in films before, even if you didn't know what it was. Move 17 is the smooth optical zoom in, which gradually magnifies the subject without any camera movement. I'll switch to a new starting image here, a woman sitting at a cafe table in natural daylight, and I'll type, the camera stays still and slowly zooms in. The background remains static as her face fills the frame, and you get this very observational feel, like the viewer is squinting to look closer. 18 is the smooth optical zoom out, which starts close and widens to reveal the full scene. So I'll write, the camera stays static and slowly zooms out from a close-up of the woman's face, revealing the full cafe environment around her. And this gives us a really clean, establishing shot, where the context slowly builds around her. Number 19 is one of my favorites, the crash zoom in. For this one, I'll type, the camera snaps forward in a sudden fast zoom directly into the woman's eyes, creating a jarring burst of energy. And here's the result. Filmmakers use this for shock moments, and Kling 3.0 handles it well because the motion blur actually looks natural. 20 is the crash zoom out, the same speed but in reverse. And I'll write, the camera rapidly zooms out from a tight close-up to a wide shot in a fraction of a second, and it snaps from extreme detail to a wide shot in less than a second, which is perfect for transitions. Our 21st move is the rack focus, which shifts sharpness between foreground and background. So I'll type, the shot begins with the woman in sharp focus and the background blurry, then halfway through the focus shifts, so the woman goes soft and the background becomes crisp. It's a classic way to redirect attention without cutting. And 22 is the reveal from blur, which starts completely out of focus and slowly sharpens. I'll write, the entire frame begins heavily blurred and out of focus, then slowly sharpens until the woman's face becomes crystal clear. And the result feels like the camera is waking up, which makes it a beautiful way to open any scene. None of these require the camera to move at all. You're describing focus and lens behavior instead of camera direction, but Kling 3.0 picks up on both equally well. Wow, that's 22 techniques down, and all of them have been shot from roughly eye level. Once you take the perspective up into the sky, even the simplest subject suddenly looks massive. Aerial shots change the scale of everything. A person standing on a sidewalk looks ordinary from eye level, but from high above they look like a tiny figure in a massive landscape. And that shift in perspective is what makes drone footage feel so cinematic. Kling 3.0 can pull off the same look, and the results are surprisingly convincing. Move 23 is the drone flyover, which takes the camera high above the scene and moves it forward. For this section, I'll use a completely different kind of starting image, a wide coastal cliff with ocean waves crashing below during golden hour. So I'll type, the camera flies over the cliffside at high altitude, moving forward in a straight line, revealing the ocean and coastline below. And that sweeping bird's eye view instantly makes everything feel expansive. 24 is the epic drone reveal, which combines an upward rise with a downward tilt. For this one, I'll write, the camera rises upward from behind the cliff edge while tilting down, progressively revealing the full landscape and ocean below. And here's the result. The scale keeps building the entire time the camera is moving, making this a signature shot opener for every travel video. The 25th move is the large-scale drone orbit, and I'll type, the camera circles the cliff in a wide aerial orbit, showing the full coastline and surrounding ocean from above. And the sense of scale you get from this one is incredible. Number 26 is the overhead, which positions the camera directly above pointing straight down. So I'll write, the camera is positioned directly overhead looking straight down at the cliff and crashing waves below, slowly rotating. It's sometimes called God's eye view, and the result looks almost abstract. 27 is the FPV drone, which mimics a racing drone that dives and weaves at high speed. I'll switch the starting image to a dense forest with tall trees and a narrow path in morning fog, and I'll type, a first-person view drone dives aggressively forward, fast and reckless motion weaving between the trunks. And this one is on a completely different level. Nothing else on this list has this kind of energy. And move 28 is the aerial pullback, which starts close to the subject and pulls backward and upward simultaneously. I'll write, the camera starts at eye level with the woman on the cliff edge and pulls backward and upward, shrinking her against the expanding landscape. And you can see how she gets smaller and smaller while the landscape opens up around her. Aerial moves make things feel bigger than they are, and even a simple scene looks completely different when you're viewing it from above. The key with prompting these is being specific about altitude and direction, because if you just say drone shot, Kling might give you a low hover instead of the sweeping flyover you wanted. Every move so far has had the subject standing still while the camera does the work. The next category flips that, because now the subject is moving too, and the way you write the prompt has to account for both at the same time. Tracking shots are where prompting gets a little more involved, because you need to describe two things simultaneously: how the camera moves and how the subject moves. If you only describe one, the other stays static and the shot looks off. The trick is writing both actions into the same prompt, so Kling understands they're happening together. Move 29 is the leading shot, where the subject walks toward the camera while the camera moves backward at the same speed. I'll upload a new starting image of a woman in a red coat on a rainy sidewalk, and I'll type, the woman walks confidently toward the camera while the camera moves backward at her walking pace, maintaining the same distance between them. And the result looks like a proper movie scene because she stays perfectly framed while the scene shifts behind her. 30 is the following shot, which is the opposite. So I'll write, the woman walks away from the camera down a narrow alleyway while the camera follows behind her at the same pace, keeping her centered in the frame. And this one gives us that sense of journey, like you're tagging along behind her. Our 31st move is sidetracking, which moves the camera alongside the subject. For this one, I'll switch to a starting image of a man in a park, and I'll type, the man jogs forward while the camera tracks him from the side at running speed. Trees blur in the background. And the motion blur in the background is what really sells this as real footage. And 32 is the POV walk, which simulates first-person perspective. I'll write, the camera moves forward in a first-person walking motion with a slight natural bobbing, approaching the woman standing at the end of an alleyway. This one is the trickiest because the bob needs to feel human, but Kling 3.0 handles it reasonably well. The biggest mistake people make with tracking shots is forgetting to describe the subject's movement. If you write meet a woman standing on a street and ask for a following shot. The camera will move, but she'll stay frozen. Always describe what the subject is doing in the same sentence as what the camera is doing. These tracking moves are what make AI videos feel like there's a real person behind the camera, and that human quality is the kind of detail that makes people stop scrolling. We're at 32 now, and the final 6 are the ones most people never think to use, but honestly they get the biggest reactions. Everything up to this point has followed the normal rules of camera operation. These last 6 break those rules on purpose, and that's exactly why they stand out. Number 33 is the vertigo effect, sometimes called the Zolly, and it's probably the most famous trick shot in cinema. The camera physically moves backward while the lens simultaneously zooms in, and the result is this surreal warping where the subject stays the same size, but the background stretches and distorts around them. I'll type. The camera pulls backward while simultaneously zooming into the woman's face, creating a vertigo dolly zoom effect where the background warps and stretches while she stays the same size, rooftop at night, city skyline behind her. And the result is wild. The background seems to stretch away while she stays perfectly still. 34 is the through shot, which flies through an obstacle to reveal what's behind it. So I'll write, the camera moves forward through a rain-covered window, passing through the glass into a warm living room where a woman sits reading by a fireplace. Soft amber lighting, and it actually feels like you're walking through the glass into the room, which is a way more interesting transition than a hard cut. Move 35 is the reveal from behind, which starts blocked by a wall and slides sideways. For this one I'll type, the camera slides laterally from behind a concrete pillar, slowly revealing a man standing in an empty warehouse. Dramatic side lighting. And it's simple, but you can feel the anticipation building because the viewer senses something is about to appear before they see it. The 36th move is the Dutch angle, which tilts the entire frame sideways. And I'll write, the camera is tilted at a strong diagonal angle on its axis, making the horizon line crooked, while the woman stares directly into the lens. Moody low lighting. And even though nothing is actually moving, the tilted frame makes the whole scene feel tense and off balance. 37 is the whip pan, a violent ultra-fast horizontal snap. So I'll type, the camera whips violently to the left with extreme motion blur, transitioning from an empty hallway to a woman standing in a doorway. Cinematic tension. And the blur is what sells it, because without it a fast pan just looks like an accident. And our 38th and final move is the handheld documentary, which simulates natural camera shake. For this last one, I'll write, the camera has a slight handheld shake and natural human movement following the woman as she walks through a busy market, raw documentary feel. And you can immediately feel the difference. Everything looks more raw and more real, and that's exactly the point. Now, one thing I want you to try is combining multiple camera directions into a single prompt, because that's where the results get really interesting. Instead of just describing one move, you can layer 2 or 3 together, and Kling will try to execute all of them in one generation. I'll go back to our original starting image and type. The camera trucks laterally to the right while slowly tilting upward and gently zooming in, wind blowing through her hair. And the result layers all 3 movements into one continuous shot. The camera slides sideways while rising and pulling in closer, and the parallax between the subject and the sky is genuinely beautiful. It doesn't work perfectly every time, and sometimes Kling prioritizes one direction over another, but when it hits, it looks like something a real cinematographer planned out on set. And that's what 38 camera movements and the right prompts can do. The reason every single one of those moves came out looking that clean is because Kling 3.0 inside Higgsfield understands camera physics better than any other model I've tested, and you don't need any filmmaking experience to use it. So if you're ready to start making AI videos that actually feel cinematic, go ahead and sign up to Higgsfield using the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.